Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafir rasulillah wa ala alihi faizin biridullah amma ba'd. Dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, may this holy month be a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bless us with all His bounties with abundance. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen. So today we are going to take some lessons from 10th Juz of the Holy Quran as part of the Juz 1 per day organized by IIUM TV. So inshallah we are discussing about the 10th Juz, which contains certain major themes as highlighted in two surahs, the Surah Al-Anfal and also Surah At-Tawbah, inshallah. So these two surahs have a speciality as both were revealed during war times. So the first surah, Surah Al-Anfal, was revealed during the second year of Hijrah, after the Battle of Badr, while Surah At-Tawbah was revealed during the 19th of Hijrah, during the time of Battle of Tabuk. And then Surah Al-Anfal from verse number 41, the 10th Juz of the Holy Quran begins. And then the 93rd verse of the Surah At-Tawbah ends with 10th Juz. So this is how it's been divided into 10th Juz. And then there are certain elements and major themes that's been highlighted in both surahs, such as dealing with hypocrites and how to use these spoils of war. As we know that Al-Anfal means the spoils of war, Al-Ghanima. So specifically there are 11 major themes as highlighted in both surahs. So the first one is the purpose of war and the rules about the distribution of the spoils of the war. And then the second theme is to be firm and united in the combat against the enemy. As like Allah mentioned, وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Be prepared well. And also Allah is mentioning about the victory of the believers against the unbelievers, as Allah suggested and mentioned in the verse, وَذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَمْ يَكُ مُتَغَيِّرًا نِعْمَةً أَنْعَمَهَا عَلَى قَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. And this is one of the highlighted verses in this surah. Allah say, you have not been given in this ni'mah. You have been given many kind of ni'mah and abundance from the God. And then God will not take out, God is not going to take out all these ni'mah unless you change within yourself. And then in the same manner, Allah is also mentioning in another surah like this, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah is not going to change any community, any society, unless they want to change within themselves. Which means if we want some blessings, or we wish for some positive changes in our life, we have to start by ourselves. We have to start from within ourselves. Otherwise Allah is not going to plan it for ourselves. So that is one of the highlighted points or the themes in this surah or in this juz. And then the fourth theme, as we can see, be prepared always to defend yourself and your people, and make peace if the enemy is inclined towards peace. Which means Islam, even though Islam is already known as a religion of peace, but Islam is peaceful unless there is an environment of peace. And Islam will struggle. The people of Islam will fight until the peace and justice and truth prevails. So Allah is directly commanding, if somebody among you breaks the laws or violates the rules. So as we mentioned, this is in a war zone. So Allah is commanding to the military, if your opposition is breaking the laws or violating, then you don't have to obey them, or you don't have to be in a peaceful situation towards them anymore. And that's why the Prophet sent the companion, one of the companions, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, to the haram, mentioning that, O kuffar, O people, you are no more permitted to take care of this haram, because you have already violated the rules and breached the treaty. So there is no more peace among us, and we will fight until truth and justice prevail. Alright? And the fifth term, the fifth point is that Allah is promising to help the believers. I mean, whomever help the Prophet and whomever be with the Prophet without hypocrisy, Allah is going to help them abundantly. And that the treatment of the prisoners of war and obligations towards Muslims living among non-Muslims, about how to coexist with non-Muslims in a multi-ethnic society. This is also highlighted in this surah. And also honor the treaties with those who honor them. Fight with those who have broken the treaty, as we have mentioned. And then polytheists, the kuffar or the mushrikeen, are forbidden to be the caretakers of Masjidul Haram, because they have violated all the treaties with the Prophet. And also the 10th highlighted theme is Muslims should trust Allah, not just their numbers. So as you don't bother about your numbers, as long as you have the sincere iman with you, that's it. أَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And in case if you are 100 people, that's enough to defeat 200 people of your opposing. That is what Allah clearly mentioned in the Quran. And then Allah is also highlighting the Jews and Christians also committed shirk. So there is no more treaty with them. And then if they incline towards peace, okay, you be also peaceful. And then you coexist with them with good treaties. Otherwise, you don't need to. And then later, Allah is commanding to spend in the path of Allah. Allah is describing how the zakat should be done, how the alms giving, the obligatory alms giving should be done. And then Allah is also highlighting the correct number of the months. So that is how this juzu ends. Alright? So one of the main elements that pointed out by this war-related verses is that the aspects of hypocrisy during the time of the Prophet. Because during that time, especially during the time of the war, Tabuk, the Battle of Tabuk, there were some of the people, they started making fun of the Prophet, and they started lagging behind without coming and without joining the battle, because their intention was, they were outwardly Islamic and Muslim, but inwardly they were totally against the Prophet. And this can be seen as the Prophet asked to demolish one mosque built by these hypocrites, these munafiqun. So by all these verses in this surah, Allah is highlighting some of the traits, some of the characteristics of al-munafiqun, The first characteristics was they always lag behind whenever they were ordered and commanded to fight against the opponent to establish peace and justice. They were lagging behind. They didn't bother about it. And then Allah continuously reminds them. And after all these things, Allah started criticizing them harshly. As we can see this criticism in Surah Al-Baqarah as well. With 14 verses, Allah has harshly criticized this hypocrisy and hypocrites. So just same like here, one of the characteristics that Allah criticized and Allah pointed out is they lagged. They lagged behind without bothering about the commands of Allah and Prophet. And also they made up excuses for not upholding their obligation towards the religion. And then the third characteristic was they look forward to seeing the believers suffering. So whenever some afflictions came towards the believers, the munafiqun, they were very happy and they were joyful. And they make fun of all these believers. They didn't show any empathy or compassion towards the believers. And the fourth characteristics that Allah pointed out was their charitable efforts are not accepted because of their insincere intentions and because they do not ground themselves in prayer and worship. So all their actions, deeds, the good deeds, especially the charity or other worships, were in vain because their intention was too bad. Whenever they got a chance to make fun of the religion, they did that. And that's why Allah never accepted that. And then they lie and swear by Allah to convince people that they are with the God, they are with the Prophet. But in fact, they never did this conviction through their actions. They never show, this swearing or their oath towards the people of Allah by their actions. They never did that. So by actions, they were outwardly munafiqun, hypocrites. And that's why Allah criticized them. And also they are greedy towards wealth, towards their properties, towards living in a posh life, towards living their own life. So even though they didn't need that much wealth with them, but they were very stubborn and they didn't show any commitment towards the religion and towards the Prophet. And of course, Allah said they whenever they get a chance to mock the Prophet, to make fun of the Prophet, they did that. They called different names for the Prophet. For example, they called, just like the Prophet is an udhun. The udhun means ones who believe, somebody who believes whatever he listens to. So Allah said, Prophet is not an udhun. So Allah rejected this kind of allegations towards the Prophet. Anyway, so whenever the munafiqun got a chance to make fun of the Prophet, they did that. And also they joked about the religious matters. They make fun of the sacred things in Islam, in religion. It's like making fun of the worship, making fun of all the religious symbols. So these kind of things. So in this, Surah Al-Anfal and Surah At-Tawbah, which were both revealed in a war zone, some of the verses are to be seen as in an angry tone. This is because Allah is, after continuous reminder made by the God, the munafiqun and those who disbelieved, they show their hypocrisy, and then they were not in a peaceful coexistence towards the Muslims, among the Muslims. So Allah started commanding that, okay, if they are not showing respect towards you, you don't need to show respect towards them. And then you have to follow the commands of the Prophet during the military times. And sometimes it's okay to break their breach, which means they have in return broken all the rules and they have violated all the things. So you don't have to respect them anymore. So these are the things that contain. These are the things and elements and points that have been highlighted in this juzu. So may Allah make and give good lessons from these holy verses of the Quran, and may Allah give us all the chances to imitate and to take lessons and internalize all these verses. And during this holy month, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us health, safety, and a peaceful mind, and a chance to worship Him in the most excellent manner. وَبِاللَّهِ التَّوْفِيقِ وَالْهِدَايَةِ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ.